Ventriloquist. Ventriloquist. I can see your lips moving.
What? My lips aren't moving.
I can clearly see them moving.
Good morning, or evening, or afternoon, or whatever it is, wherever you are. My name's Stephen Reid, and I'm a filmmaker from Northern Ireland. My background is in web design and graphic design, which I started on probably 15 years ago when I was still in school. But over the last 2-3 years, however, I've been transitioning from web design over into filmmaking, and I have learned tons in the last 2 years. I'm very much aware I still have a lot to learn. So I started this channel to share what I've learned. I'm going to create videos about filmmaking techniques, gear, maybe do some reviews, and perhaps help other people who are just getting into filmmaking. Also hopefully want to do some mini movie projects where I actually go out and shoot something and then explain how we made it and break it down, and then anything else I find interesting. So there could be some random stuff as well. So that's it for the channel intro. If all you want to do is find out what this channel is going to be about, there you have it. You can leave now, never to come back, or you can hit subscribe. For anyone who's interested, I thought I would tell my own story about how I came to be doing what I'm doing today, and how to show that it's never really a straight path. I've always been interested in creating images, and I've owned the camera for pretty much as long as I can remember. My very first camera was a really cheap 35mm compact camera. Judging from my old box of photographs from back then, I seem to mostly use it to take photographs of my friend taking funny faces, or of attempting to photograph girls that I liked. Not creepy at all. I got my first digital camera in 2002. I still have it. Here it is. It's a Fujifilm Finepix 2800 zoom. I took smart media cards. Who remembers these? So thin. It's thinner than an SD card. And here's the amazing thing about this camera. It still goes. This camera is 15 years old, and the batteries have just died. Oh no, there we go. Yes, it still works perfectly. During my late teens, I worked in a camera shop where I was a very productive member of staff, an excellent salesman, and I certainly didn't spend a lot of my time messing around building forts and suits of armor from cardboard boxes. When I was about 18, I got my first proper SLR camera. And it was actually a film SLR, 35mm film. It's a Pentax P30. It had automatic exposure, but manual focus and everything else on it was manual. This camera must be at least 40 years old. Still works, don't use it enough. And I still think that for anyone wanting to learn photography, starting with a fully manual camera is a great way to go, because it really teaches you discipline. On the video side of things, I've been interested in making videos again since I was pretty much a kid. I think it was probably actually sparked by my favorite movie of all time, Jurassic Park. I think it was at that perfect age where I was old enough to understand what was happening, but still young enough that I totally believed it and it felt totally real. Absolutely scared the life out of me. I had nightmares for days afterwards. Couldn't go past an open window without thinking that a T-Rex was gonna... But it made me become fascinated with movies and the process that actually went into making them.
Madness! No, this is Sparta!
And I used to absolutely devour the special features on any DVDs that I got. And genuinely, I have learned things watching the special features on movie DVDs that I have actually used in real projects. During my teens and then a bit after, I experimented with making videos from little characters that I made. I experimented a little bit with stop motion. I worked in a butcher shop for 4 years. For a teenager with a very active imagination and being very easily bored, it was an excellent place to work if you wanted to make gory videos. I made a particularly delightful video of me cutting my own finger off. The Oscar-worthy special effects were accomplished using some red marinade and a borrowed chipolata pork sausage. Truly spectacular. After school, I ended up doing a multimedia degree because at that stage I become actually more interested in web design and graphic design. So all in all, I've been working in that kind of industry for really arguably 15 years, because I started doing client projects while I was still in school, and I've been running my own business, which is currently called Grafters Media, since 2011. But this whole time, photography and to a lesser extent video had just been a hobby.
How about a magic trick?
What do you mean they cut the power? How did they cut the power, man?
In around 2013, I bought a Canon 60D, which at the time was a really good mid-level camera that shot full HD video. The first time I stuck a prime lens on it, I went out and got that razor sharp depth of field that is completely impractical for most use cases, but that just blew me away that you could get footage that looked that good from such a small and affordable camera. Then later that year, a website client of mine actually asked me if I could do video. And I said, well, why not? So I said I would do it. They took a chance on me.
Village of Downings, County Donegal.
The end result was nothing groundbreaking, but it introduced me to the possibilities that DSLR filmmaking offered. But it was all interrupted around the end of 2013 when I got offered a job as a creative director at a startup. Now, if you work in the creative industry, working for a startup is kind of seen as the holy grail. There's this idea that you'll just spend all day eating smashed avocado, pulled pork sandwiches, and playing games and making really cool, groundbreaking, earth-shattering products. And eventually, your product takes off, somebody buys you out, and you become millionaires overnight. Well, I did eat a lot of pulled pork sandwiches. A lot of pulled pork sandwiches. But in the end, as what happens with so many startups, the money dried up, business failed, and I lost my job. That was really tough. But it did help me to focus on what I really wanted to do and question how I'd been running my own business previously. So it was now around autumn 2015 and I was just getting started back up again. A friend of mine recommended me to a businessman in my local town who was part of a business improvement group. And he gave probably the most overblown recommendation. Yes, Stephen Reid has been doing great work in the field of narrative filmmaking. Yes. I had one commercial project under my belt at that point. I was contacted by a local business group who wanted to create a Christmas film to promote the town, and I was asked if I would come and pitch to their marketing team. This was not the sort of opportunity that was going to come around that often, especially in Northern Ireland for creative projects. So I just jumped at it. It just seemed like this would be amazing to work on. So I spent nearly 2 weeks developing a story about this little bear that gets lost. I collaborated with an artist to create storyboards to tell a story. So for my pitch, I basically walked through the entire story, trying to set the scene while using the storyboards to back it up. And the marketing team loved it. They gave me the go-ahead to make the film. They gave me my budget. And the amazing thing is that no one ever asked me, have you done anything like this before? Just based off the idea that I came up with and my pitch, that was enough to convince them to take the chance. Two of us spent a solid 8 weeks making it because there was just so much to figure out as we went, especially as I decided to use puppets to try and bring the bear to life. We had to figure out everything from scratch. Long story short, the film was a huge success. The business group were absolutely delighted with how it performed, and it's really been the thing that made me realize that I love doing this. I love telling these stories. I love just the puzzles and the figuring out that's involved in filmmaking. I love the technology, I love the gear, and I love the editing, I love the special effects. I love everything about it. Off the back of that, over the last 2 years, the majority of my work has now changed from web design and graphic design over to filmmaking. And I'm not even going to pretend that it's all fun and it's easy all the time. It's not. Filmmaking can be a huge amount of work, and it can be incredibly stressful because you just feel a lot of pressure on you to get it right. With any creative skill, you just look out there and you just see hundreds and hundreds of people who are just so much better than you are, and sometimes you can obsess over that and you can worry about it. There's also that constant feeling that I haven't a clue what I'm doing and I don't want to be found out. Probably I shouldn't say that on the internet. But that doesn't matter. What matters is that you yourself do a good job, that you continually push yourself, that you say yes to things that scare you and you figure out how to do them anyway. I think that's the key to becoming really good at something like this. And I very much feel like I'm just at the start of my journey into this. I struggle with the idea of actually calling myself a filmmaker because that to me says people like Steven Spielberg and Christopher Nolan, these Hollywood professionals. But at the end of the day, it doesn't matter about the quality of the gear you use or how good an editor you are. If you're using video to tell stories, you're a filmmaker. You might be a terrible filmmaker, but if you do that, that's what you are. So that's pretty much my story on my journey into filmmaking, or whatever you want to call it. Hopefully some of you found it useful. maybe you can relate to some of my own experiences. If that's true, please let me know in the comments. I'd love to know if people have experienced the same things. Or if you have any questions, just ask in the comments. But aside from that, please like, please subscribe, please tell your friends, and I'll be trying to produce a lot more of these videos. Thank you. For anyone who's wondering, this is Bones McGee.
Hello!
Bones McGee is the office mascot.
How are you today? Look, you're a terrible ventriloquist. You can't even say ventriloquist.
Yes, Bones McGee was actually bought for a client project for a medical product where we needed a human skull in the background with a brain in it. He's got a brain. I'm not going to take it out because it's cheap and it falls to pieces. But then one day I stuck some little eyes in his eye sockets and he's just come to life. Isn't he adorable?
Boy, your lips are still moving.